This is my first video update from Athens, Greece on this Thursday midday. Let's talk about some news, and we have the video release from the Pentagon of the MQ-9 Reaper drone getting fuel dumped on it by a Russian fighter jet. And in the video, you can see that one of the propellers of the Reaper drone was damaged. I believe it was destroyed completely, while another propeller looks like it's slightly bent from the Russian fighter jets. That is the video that the Pentagon released. That's it. So it looks like, if this is the real deal, it looks like that's how the Russian fighter jet brought down this Reaper drone. And NBC News, they're running a headline which says, Russian leadership approved aggressive actions of jets that damaged U.S. drone, U.S. officials say. One official said he had not gotten indications that the sign-off went all the way up to President Putin. So Shoigu gave the okay, right? Okay, that's the deal here with this NBC News article. 3 U.S. officials familiar with the intelligence said the highest levels of the Kremlin approved the aggressive actions of Russian military fighter jets against a U.S. military drone over the Black Sea on Tuesday. It was Russian leadership's intention to be aggressive in the intercept, said one of the officials. 3 defense officials and 1 Biden administration official also said the Russians have already reached the area where the MQ-9 Reaper crashed. The Russians are actively looking for the debris with ships and aircraft, but the U.S. hasn't seen any indication that they've been able to recover any of it, officials said. That evil Shoigu, that evil Russian defense minister, bringing down a U.S. MQ-9 Reaper peace drone. A peace drone, that's what it was. How dare the Russians bring down a drone that was flying so close to the U.S. borders? How dare they commit such an aggressive action? I mean, the drone was probably just snapping photos and video for the Pentagon's YouTube travel travel channel. That's probably what it was doing. You know, getting some good aerial footage of like the Black Sea and Odessa and Crimea for the Pentagon's travel channel. And then the Russians, Shoigu, they gave the order to spray the drone with fuel and bring it down. How dare they? How dare they? Anyway, here's what Maria Zakharova had to say, and she was responding to John Kirby's comments yesterday with regards to the drone and how the drone was U.S. property and how the property should be picked up by the U.S. or at a very minimum returned to the U.S. Maria Zakharova, she said, John, ask the New York Times for the phone number of the private Ukrainian company that American propaganda says blew up the Nord Stream pipeline very, very deep in the Baltic Sea. They are, judging by your papers, deep flying specialists. They will get it. Yeah, why not call those guys? Why not call Gilligan, the skipper, Professor, Ginger Marianne, the millionaire and his wife? They can go find the drone. You figure if they can pull off Nord Stream on the Andromeda yacht, picking up the wreckage of the peace drone would be a piece of cake for these guys. Oh boy! But look, John Kirby He has nothing to worry about. The the tech ending up in Russian hands and being reverse engineered and sharing it with the Chinese or the Iranians and all of this stuff, all of these fears that Kirby had with the drone being recovered by the Russians. He has nothing to worry about because two U.S. officials, they told CNN that the U.S. erased sensitive software on the drone remotely before it crashed to prevent Russia from collecting secret information. So there's absolutely nothing to worry about as far as any type of secret classified info getting into the hands of the Russians, because it's all been erased. Whatever tech or info or photos or videos, it was being uploaded to the Apple Cloud. It was being uploaded to iCloud, and the Pentagon, they decided to erase it while it was being uploaded to the cloud. So the Russians won't get their hands on any secret classified technology. So that's the good news. That's the good news for the Pentagon and for the Biden White House. Some more drone news. We had Pentagon Chief Lloyd Austin speak with the evil Sergei Shoigu, the defense minister of Russia, who brought down this peaceful drone flying right off the coast of the United States. Austin and Shoigu, they spoke, and Austin, he said this, and I quote, "I just got off the phone with my Russian counterpart, Minister Shoigu. As I've said repeatedly, it's important that great powers be models of transparency and communication." So Russia's now a great power? Really? I thought they were a gas station masquerading as a country. Now they're a great power. Okay. Whatever you say, Mr. Lloyd Austin. Austin also said that Russia acted dangerously and recklessly. He added that the U.S. will continue to use its aircraft despite Russia's aggressive actions. Shoigu, he said that flights of American strategic drones are of a provocative nature. This creates the preconditions for an escalation in the Black Sea zone. Russia is not interested in such development of events, but it will react proportionately to all provocations, and the largest nuclear powers must act responsibly, maintain military communication channels to discuss any crisis situation. That's what the Russian Ministry of Defense said. That is what the defense minister said. So Lloyd Austin, he is saying that the U.S. will continue to fly aircraft close to the borders of the U.S. located in the Black Sea, which is very, very close. The Black Sea is very close to U.S. territory, and the U.S. has absolutely all of the right to fly drones, peace drones, in the Black Sea, which is located right off the coast of New York. So yeah, Lloyd Austin is absolutely right that the U.S. should continue to fly its drones close to U.S. territory in the Black Sea. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. The Russian ambassador, Ambassador Antonov, he replied to Lindsey Graham's comments. Senator neocon Warhawk, tough guy Lindsey Graham, who said that the U.S. should now start shooting down Russian fighter jets because the Russians, they sprayed a U.S. Reaper peace drone with fuel, bringing it down in the Black Sea. And this is what Russian Ambassador Antonov said in response to Lindsey Graham's comments about shooting down Russian jets. He said, and I quote, "Intentionally attacking a Russian aircraft in neutral airspace is not just a crime under international law, but also an open declaration of war against the largest nuclear power." Antonov warned that an armed clash between Russia and the United States would be radically different from the proxy war that the Americans are waging remotely against us in Ukraine. Is the capital ready to expose American citizens and the international community to the risk of all-out nuclear war? Answer, dear Senator. I don't know if you want Lindsey Graham's answer to that question, because I have a feeling that Lindsey Graham would say, yeah, absolutely. We absolutely are ready to risk the lives of American citizens, of the lives of the world, of the planet, for nuclear war with Russia. I think Lindsey Graham's answer to that question would be yes. Yes, we are ready. That's what Lindsey Graham would say. Let's now talk about this Politico article, which came out yesterday, with the title, "Ukraine Doesn't Have Any Time to Waste. U.S. Races to Prepare Kiev for Spring Offensive. Washington is increasingly concerned about Ukraine's dwindling supply of ammo and air defenses." And this article talks about a May spring counteroffensive. We have the date of this big Ukraine counteroffensive. It is coming in May, according to Politico, and it's going to have one of two flavors. The most unlikely counteroffensive that the Ukraine will take is going through Kherson and cutting straight from Kherson to Crimea. That's the most unlikely scenario, but that's one option. The other option is that the Ukraine military moves east, and then they move south, cutting the land bridge, and then going after Crimea, cutting off the Russian land bridge, splitting the Russian forces in two, and then going after Crimea. That's the plan. It's one of two options. The most likely one is that the Ukraine military, using the Leopard tanks and NATO weapons, and the Ukraine forces that are being trained in the UK, in Poland, in Germany, and elsewhere in the EU, they're going to move east, rapidly move east. Then they're going to move south. They're going to split the Russian forces, and then they're going to move to take Crimea. That's the plan, and that's all going to happen in May, according to Politico. But Politico also mentioned this interesting bit of news in the article. They mentioned that Ukraine is suffering from acute shortages in ammunition and artillery and weapons. And they said that upwards of 100,000 Ukrainian forces have died in the year-long war. This is according to U.S. official estimates. Including, in the 100,000 that have died, this includes the most experienced soldiers. Notice that Politico is not saying 100,000 casualties. They're saying 100,000 of Ukraine's most experienced soldiers, their best troops, have died in this conflict with Russia. That is quite a revelation from Politico. And it coincides with an article from the Kiev Independent with the title, "Battle of Bakhmut. Ukrainian soldiers worry Russians begin to taste victory," and an article from the Daily Mail with the title, "I know I'm being sent to my death. Ukrainian soldiers admit we are just getting killed," as they defend Bakhmut and say Russia can already taste victory. So Russia can taste victory. That is the narrative. That is the titles that are coming out of the Kiev Independent and the Daily Mail. Zelensky, he said a couple of days ago that Ukraine will absolutely hold on and defend Bakhmut. And there are reports that Ukraine has moved a lot of their forces, their resources to Chasiv Yar so that they can try to break open this encirclement of Bakhmut. This was supposed to happen last week. It's supposed to happen this week. The weather, from what I understand, is not in Ukraine's favor. So it doesn't look like we're going to get any type of Ukraine offensive towards Bakhmut in the next couple of days. Maybe next week, maybe the week after. Who knows? But But the reports are that Zelensky has moved some of his best troops to Chasov Yar, and a lot of resources are being moved there with consultation from Commander Sirsky. Forget about Zaluzhny. Zaluzhny's out of the picture. It's now about Commander Sirsky, and the plan is to bust open the encirclement in Bakhmut and get those forces out. And then in the springtime, Ukraine is supposed to go towards Crimea with this big counteroffensive. They're going to mount this big counteroffensive in May, splitting Russian forces and then going after Crimea. But Politico is telling us that Ukraine has lost 100,000 soldiers, 100,000 casualties, 100,000 dead, which means that the casualties are what? 300,000, 400,000? And they've lost their best soldiers, but they're going to go after Crimea. How exactly is all of this going to happen? It's not. The only way this is going to happen is if NATO gets involved. Cy Hirsch is worried that NATO is going to get involved. He made a statement the other day saying that the only way Ukraine can keep this war going is if NATO gets involved and we see U.S. boots on the ground. Because when we talk about NATO, what we're really talking about is American troops on the ground. That's what we're really talking about. Anyway, that's the latest from Politico, from the Kiev Independent, from the Daily Mail. That's the situation in Ukraine. It's not looking good at all. But Zelensky, I've said this many times, he has connected his presidency, his political future, his entire future. He's connected it to Bakhmut, and he has also connected it to the spring counteroffensive. And so the collective West, NATO, they're saying, okay, Zelensky, show us what you got. So his entire political future, his entire media narrative is connected to Bakhmut and is connected to this spring counteroffensive. And that is why Zelensky is continuing to hold on to an area which is lost. That is why he continues to pour resources into Bakhmut. And that is why we're getting such specific timelines and such detailed information about a counteroffensive. Have you ever heard of a conflict, of a war, where the one side gives such detailed information, telegraphs what they're about to do? It's now March. We got a good, let's say the counteroffensive happens in, let's not even say May, let's say it happens in June. 2.5 months. This is what they're telegraphing, not only to the Russians, but to the entire world, as to how they're going to conduct this counteroffensive. I've never heard of this ever before in any history that I know of. As far as military confrontations go, I've never seen this before, where one side is saying in such detail how they're going to go on the offensive. Maybe this is a huge bluff. Maybe they're talking about all of this offensive towards Crimea, splitting Russian forces, holding on to Bakhmut. Maybe this is all one big bluff, and they're just buying time because they're going to, they're going to mount an offensive in the north towards Belgorod, inside of Russia. I have no idea, but it's so bizarre to get these articles and these statements from Politico and the Kiev Independent and Zelensky himself. It's just really weird. Anyway, sticking with Ukraine, the military situation in Ukraine is going from bad to worse to even worse, and the financial situation in Ukraine is also getting very, very bad, because we have this post from the Financial Times, which is saying that the IMF is poised to announce $15.6 billion lending program for Ukraine. When the IMF is lending you money, that's when you know your economy, your country is absolutely, completely screwed. And of course, the IMF is never going to get this $15 million back. The collective West, the United States, the EU, they're never going to get any of the billions back that they gave to Ukraine. That money is gone. That money has bought Zelensky 30 homes. That money has bought Zaluzhny 10 homes and Sirsky another 5 homes, and it's been stuffed away in various banks, though not Silicon Valley Bank and not Credit Suisse. It's probably been dumped in other banks, and that money is gone. It's never getting back to the U.S., to the EU, and this $15.6 billion is never going to be paid back to the IMF. So how is the collective West going to get their money? Because they know that this money that they're giving to Ukraine is not going to come back to them. How are they going to get it back? Well, I've had various emails from various viewers of the channel and financial analysts and military analysts, and I've been thinking about this as well, and I think some of their analysis is spot on. The hope of BlackRock and J.P. Morgan and all of these financial institutions and the collective West oligarchs and all of these people that are invested in Ukraine, Klaus Schwab, the WEF, Soros, their hope is that they will prevent Russia from moving west. And when this conflict draws to some sort of conclusion or stalemate, then they will have much of the west, say the central west of Ukraine, including Odessa, intact, where the corporations, these big neoliberal entities like BlackRock can come in and just say, you know what, 120 billion is what you own. Well, we're just going to take all of this land and resources and factories. It's all coming to us. And we're even Steven. That's how they're probably seeing this play out. That's probably how it goes. That's what they're hoping for. Russia will have Donbass and that area, and they're hoping that they can stop Russia from moving further west, and the rest of Ukraine, well, that's going to go to the neoliberal world order. The neoliberal world order is going to get all of those resources and land and everything else that's left. Anyway, since I mentioned Silicon Valley Bank and Credit Suisse, well, Credit Suisse is the next very, very big bank that was slated for collapse, but it looks like the Swiss authorities, they've bought Credit Suisse a little bit more time in order to try and save the bank. Now, if Credit Suisse were to collapse, this would be an absolute catastrophe to the banking system. Credit Suisse has had a lot of problems for a long time, but it looks like the money printing, the banking crisis in the U.S., the sanctions against Russia, inflation, interest rate hikes, all of these things have exposed Credit Suisse. Credit Suisse is financial problems, and the bank was down something like 97%. The bank stock was down 97% yesterday, and things are looking very, very bad. Just to put things in perspective, Signature Bank had $120 billion in assets. SVB had $180 billion in assets. Credit Suisse, $580 billion in assets. Too big to fail. Too big to fail for the European Union and for the United States and for the entire collective West, the entire global financial sector, except for Russia, because Peskov, the Kremlin spokesman, he said yesterday in comments that oddly enough, all of the sanctions placed on Russia and sanctioning Russia to the point where it was expelled from the Western financial systems has actually insulated Russia from all of this contagion. I believe the words that the Kremlin spokesman said in his statement was that the sanctions against Russia were a blessing in disguise. That's the words that he used, a blessing in disguise, because the Russian banking system, the Russian financial system is completely insulated from all of this this turmoil that we see in the collective West banking sector. Anyway, long story short, the Swiss Central Bank, they are going to be providing support to Credit Suisse. They're going to be bailing out Credit Suisse, and they're going to buy the bank. I don't know, 2, 3, 4, 5 months of time to see if it can weather this storm. We'll see. We will see. You know, the interesting part about this banking crisis, especially the banking crisis that's unfolding in the U.S., is that yes, it is targeted at tech and crypto and Bitcoin, and it's definitely going to help the Biden White House move closer to central bank digital currencies. But the crisis itself, trying to navigate this crisis, is going to be extremely difficult for the Biden White House, because they're going to have to start turning the money printers on again, and that's not going to help the inflation situation. And raising interest rates has not worked because inflation continues to go up. And the Biden White House this time, and not many people are talking about this, the Biden White House doesn't have many tools to prevent this crisis from spreading past these smaller regional banks or these tech-heavy banks. And the one tool that they did have at their disposal in the past, which was the USD as reserve currency, is going away as well. And that's going to prevent an additional headache for the Biden White House and for Janet Yellen and Powell as they try to figure out how to get out of this mess. But central bank digital currencies, that's where they're trying to move us towards, but they're still in this big freaking financial hole. And in the past, they had the USD as reserve currency to count on. Well, no more. That is no more. So I thought I would mention that because raising interest rates is a problem. Inflation is a problem. They're going to have to print money. That is a problem. But the USD as reserve currency, you don't have that tool in your toolbox anymore. So that's the situation. With Credit Suisse, these are the problems that the Biden White House is going to be facing going forward as they try to figure out how to navigate this financial crisis. Meanwhile, in Saudi Arabia and in Indonesia, we have Saudi Arabia saying that they will stop oil supplies to countries that set a price ceiling on its oil. And the kingdom's energy minister, Prince Abdulaziz bin Salman, said in an interview with Energy Intelligence, that is what he said in an interview with Energy Intelligence, and I quote, "If a price cap is imposed on Saudi oil exports, we will not sell oil to any country that imposes a price cap on our supplies, and we will cut oil production, and I would not be surprised if others do the same." Why is Saudi Arabia coming out with a statement like this? Because up until today, it was oil price ceilings and price caps on Russia. And all of a sudden, we have Saudi Arabia now issuing a warning. Why is that? Well, it's because the G7, the European Union, the US, has most likely sent a warning to Saudi Arabia that if Saudi Arabia, and this is just a hunch, this is just my guess, I was talking about this with Alexander, and we talk about this in a video that's going to be going up on the Duran channel, but most likely the collective West got very pissed off with the diplomatic rapprochement, which was negotiated by China between Saudi Arabia and Iran, and they probably sent a warning to MBS and to the kingdom, and they said, don't you dare open up diplomatic relations and diplomatic ties with Iran. Reverse course. We do not want to see this type of peace in the Middle East. And if you continue to move forward, trying to bring stability and peace in the Middle East, we're going to take this price cap that we put on Russia and we're going to put it on you as well. That is what I think is leading to this warning from Saudi Arabia. They got a warning from the collective West that if they continue to move forward with this stability peace thing that China and Russia is piecing together in the Middle East, then they're going to start placing price caps on Saudi oil. So Saudi Arabia, they came out and they said, don't you dare. If you place a price cap on our oil, then not only will Saudi Arabia not sell oil to you guys in the collective West, but all of OPEC will stop selling oil to the collective West. The people in the EU and the G7, they've lost their freaking minds if this is indeed the situation. But that's what I think happened. That is what I think happened, and that's why you're seeing Saudi Arabia issue a warning. They're getting out in front of this and they're saying, don't warn us. Don't warn us at all. So that's the statement from Saudi Arabia. And in Indonesia, President Jokowi, he said that the local government should ditch Visa and MasterCard. Quote, be very careful. We must remember the sanctions imposed by the U.S. on Russia. Visa and MasterCard could be a problem. Have we not been saying this for the past year, that with all these sanctions, that you know what? Cutting Russia out of SWIFT, sanctioning Russia, sanctioning the banks, putting price caps, sanctioning Russian oil and gas and other commodities and resources and all of these things. Have we not been saying that the rest of the world, the 80% of the world, is going to look at this and they're going to be like, we got to get out of this system. They're seizing Russia's foreign assets. They're going to come after our foreign assets. They're seizing Russian reserves. They're going to come after our banking reserves. By the way, Credit Suisse, here's a bit of karma for you. Credit Suisse, they seized something like 19 billion in Russian assets. They froze 19 billion in Russian assets. That's karma for you. But anyway, the world is looking at this. Saudi Arabia is saying, don't you dare put a price cap on our oil. Indonesia is saying, you know what? Maybe Visa and MasterCard are not so dependable and reliable. Visa and MasterCard can also be used as sanctioned weapons, as political weapons. And they're saying it's time to get out. The US dollar, time to get out. Time to look for alternatives. This is what happens when the Biden White House, when the US government, when the EU, they use sanctions as weapons, as a way to put pressure on countries for political leverage. So Indonesia is going to probably look at Union Pay, perhaps the Mir card. Not good news for Visa and MasterCard. But you know what? Visa and MasterCard, you guys went along with it. You didn't give any pushback. You wanted to virtue signal. You wanted to put the Ukraine flag on your Twitter bio, and your Facebook bio, and you wanted to virtue signal that you're also combating the evil Putin. Well, now countries are going to start to look for alternatives for payment systems, and they have alternatives. They have the Mir card, and they have China's Union Pay, and I think that Cuba is actually now adopting the Mir card. So, not good news. And you also have alternatives to SWIFT as well. Not good news for the collective West. The sanctions were a big mistake. Let's do some clown worlds and we'll wrap up this video. I've got two clown worlds. And the first clown world is from Morning Joe, the MSNBC show. I don't know when this interview took place, to be quite honest. It must be recent. But Morning Joe, they had Olena Zelenska as well as Hillary Clinton on their show. Hillary Clinton supporting Zelensky. That tells you everything, doesn't it? Tells you everything. Anyway, Morning Joe, MSNBC, Mika Brzezinski, and And Joe Scarborough, they were interviewing Olena Zelenska and Hillary Clinton, and the uh, the one-time screenwriter and now wife of President Zelensky, she said this quote: "One woman saw a drone from her balcony and shot it down with a jar of tomatoes."
One of the women saw a drone from her balcony and hit it, shot it down with a jar of tomatoes. So to shoot down a drone with a jar of tomatoes, it's perhaps something that only a Ukrainian woman can do. And we have heard a lot of these kinds of stories.
She's a screenwriter. Keep that in mind. She is a screenwriter. They took out a drone with a jar of tomatoes. Is that what the Russian fighter jet used when it took down the MQ-9 Reaper peace drone? Did it use a jar of tomatoes? Maybe that wasn't fuel. Maybe it was a jar of tomatoes. I don't know. But, and the funny part is that they're all nodding and going like, yeah, Hillary Clinton's like, yeah. You know, we came, we saw, we took out some drones, right? That's what Hillary Clinton is saying. What difference does it make? What difference does it make if it was fuel or tomatoes or a jar of tomatoes? What difference does it make? And then you have Joe Scarborough going like this. Then you have Mika Brzezinski. She just does everything that Joe Scarborough does. If Joe Scarborough nods, Mika nods. If Joe Scarborough shakes his head, Mika shakes her head, right? She's also like this, you know. Oh boy. Morning Joe. If I was conducting this interview with Olena Zelenska and I was sipping my coffee, because this is Morning Joe, right? If I was sipping my cup of Joe and I heard her tell me that that Ukrainian women, they took out drones with jars of tomatoes, I would like just spit out my coffee. I would just be like, like, what are you talking about? Okay, I know we're a propaganda channel as MSNBC. I know we're propaganda, but this is too much. This is too much. Remember the story about way back in the beginning of the conflict, where I think it was the Mirror or the Sun or the Daily Mail. They read an article about a Ukrainian pensioner shooting down a Russian fighter jet with his rifle. Remember that story? Just nonsense, man. It's just nonsense. You know what the sad part about this is that I am convinced that the people that watch MSNBC believe this. I'm convinced that all the people that support Hillary Clinton and watch Morning Joe are probably also nodding their head going, yeah, a jar of tomatoes. That's what I can use to take out drones. One woman saw a drone from her balcony and shot it down with a jar of tomatoes. I have to read it again to make sure I'm getting that quote right. Oh boy. The final clown world is once again the Vovin and Alexis show. And this time they prank called ECB chief Christine Lagarde, who was once the chief of the IMF, before she got into some legal problems and she was convicted of some crimes in France. But no problem. Just because you're convicted of some crimes doesn't mean you can't make it all the way to the top of the European Central Bank. So they interviewed Christine Lagarde, fake interviewed Christine Lagarde, and this time they didn't pretend to be Poroshenko. They pretended to be Zelensky. And Christine Lagarde, she believed it. This is the person that is in charge of the euro. She's in charge of the euro. And she actually believed that she was talking to Volodymyr Zelensky. Christine Lagarde, this is Volodymyr Zelensky. Listen, do you have a couple of billion euros to send me? I want to buy some homes in France. She believed it.
A smart woman at this position, and I think that you're pretty nice.
She believed it. And what did she tell Zelensky? What did she reveal to Volodymyr Zelensky? She said that sanctions failed to lower the ruble because of Elvira Nabiullina. So she praised the Russian government, and specifically, she mentioned Nabiullina for the way that she handled the collective West sanctions shock and awe, and Russia is doing just fine. So that was interesting. Interesting to hear Lagarde praise the work of the head of the Central Bank of Russia. And then Lagarde admitted that the digital euro, CBDCs, which are coming to the EU, which are going to have to come to the EU, she said. They have to get the digital euro. She said that it is all about power and control. The digital euro will be a control mechanism for EU citizens. She said that now, as the EU, we are dependent on gas supplies from a very unfriendly country, and we need the digital euro to help us with that. And then she said that we have a threshold. The EU has a threshold of 1,000 euros in Europe. If you cross it, you will find yourself in the gray market. You risk being caught, fined, or sent to jail. But the digital euro will have limited control, she said. That was the quote from, some of the quotes from this prank call with Christine Lagarde. Limited control with the digital euro? I don't think so. In this interview, Lagarde talked about 300 to 400 euros being some sort of a threshold, and anything above that, anything spent above that, will be monitored, and it'll be monitored very, very easily with the digital euro. Anyway, that's the video, everybody. TheDuran.locals.com. We are on Rumble and Rockfin and Telegram and BitChute, Odyssey, and YouTube, and the Duran shop, 10% off. Use the code. Good day. Take care.